and our demand for fresh water, and feeding more people with healthier, more affordable food. Working together to properly manage our ocean. A global network of no-fish zones and a treaty on the use of international waters would restore the health of the ocean so it actually produces more fish for us all to eat. Working hard to keep hold of the wild populations we still have, encouraging nature wherever we can. In the ocean, on land we no longer need, and even in our cities. If we make these changes, we'll be a long way to becoming a species in balance with nature once again. We will have taken a remarkable journey, from 1 million people struggling to survive, to several billion living long, healthy lives on a stable planet, able to provide for all our needs. Only at that point will the Anthropocene, the age of humans, be truly underway. At that point, we will be proud to call it our planet. How do we create a future in which both people and nature can thrive? We open our eyes to this moment in history. Think on a planetary scale. Embrace the challenge we face. And do something we humans are very good at. Change the world.
Okay, I'm moving into the call. Hope you can hear me clearly. Good evening, everyone. So we should have pronunciation today of the workshop series of sample. I would just like a confirmation 1 or 2 if you can hear me clearly. And apologies if you can hear some background music. This evening, we are going to be starting right away. We have a facilitator in this. She's a facilitator. She's a mentor. She's an industry expert. And we're so glad to have her joining this evening. And we are going to be learning from her in the while we're also going to dive in the second session. The first session this evening is going to be focused on the activity aspect of environmental policy and regulation, while the second session is going to be focused on environmental pollution and sustainable waste management. And this evening, we are so blessed to have Madam Washi Ebenezer. And she's an accomplished professional. The rich and diverse expertise that encompasses international environmental gender studies, environmental safety and management, and marine. Our skill set extends to sustainable development, climate change mitigation, community engagement, and risk management. As a seasoned advocate for environmental justice and policy change, she is a compelling communicator who champions ethical practices, particularly at the intersection of health, safety, and climate change. And this evening, we are so glad to have you on board, Madam Washi. Thank you for joining the session. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. I think you can hear me loud and clear.
Absolutely, we can hear you better.
Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. And I hope we are all doing great. First of all, I would like to appreciate the organizer of this event, creating a platform for us to discuss like this. It's an amazing thing. So well done. And thank you for having me. So I'm going to share my screen now. And I'll be speaking on environmental policy and regulations. Okay, I hope you can all see my screen.
see your screen.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yes, like I said, I'll be speaking on
screen.
Okay. Yeah, is it better? Can you see my screen?
Very better, much more better.
Okay, all right,
Yes,
thank you. All right, thank you. So I'm going to be speaking on environmental law policies and regulation. But before I start, I had another class like this yesterday, but then I think I was just speaking to myself, actually. That's how I feel. So I would want it to be more interactive. So before I start, I would like to hear one or two, opinion on why do you think we're having this class environmental policy, and why do you think it's important? If one or two people can just unmute. Okay, Nkechi Gifts, you raised your hand. I don't know if the organizer can allow them to. Okay, all right, good afternoon.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Okay, so I think what we're talking about this now is because each and every one of us has, and we have a way of affecting the environment, like what we do, either negatively or positively. So I think the reason we are talking about this is to help us see ways we can mitigate the effects that we are having on the environment, to see how we can better manage the environment and sustain it for
Right,
for the future, so that
okay, thank you.
people
Thank you so much,
who
Ikechi.
are coming after us can as well.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. Can another person, okay, let me see. Okay. Yes, from Niger, I think Adamu Salisu. Can you please unmute?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, madam. The question again.
Yes, I was asking, why do you think we're having this class? Why do you think it's important for us, while we're discussing environmental sustainability and all, why it's important for us to talk about policies, regulations, and law as well?
Yeah, because of majority of us. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, because majority of us, it seems like we become sick in the environment. And if you have a stick in the environment, you should know the do and don't in the environment, which is very, very important. Those things that if you do, it will be it will have implication to the environment. I think that's the reason why we're having this class, because we will become a stick in the environment. And maybe majority of us will be having products, one or two things to do in the environment that we're going to the environment. From here, in fact, it is already the sustainability have started with this course. The sustainability courses have started with us if we are aware of it. Our relation to the environment matters very well. So if you already know the existing laws, it will help us to this. I think that is it.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Beg your pardon. Thank you very much for that. That's very insightful. Yes. So exactly, it's very important for us to talk about policies, laws, and regulation. Irrespective of the problem we are trying to solve, there must be laws, policies, and regulation that are regulating that space or that area. So it's important, as much as we are all solving environmental issues from from different angles, we need to also understand the law, policies, and regulation that is impacting or helping to solve the problem. So that's why we're having this class. Thank you very much, Nkechi and Salisu. So like I said, I'm going to be talking about environmental policies, laws, and regulation. But before then, because our focus is Nigeria, I would like to give a little background of Nigeria. You all know that Nigeria, the geography of Nigeria, we are located in the western part of Africa, and we are bordered by Benin, Chad, and Cameroon, and Niger. Our demographic is, we are 200 million, and that makes us the most populous country in Africa. And you could see from the documentary that we just saw before we started the class that population is really, really impacting our environment. However, I can say it's all negative for Nigeria, because that population, we could also make a very effective use of it by using it to also help our economy. So Nigeria demographic is 200 million. We are the most populous country in Africa, and our economy is a mix of oil, that's fossil fuel, telecommunication services, and agriculture. So Nigeria being the largest oil producer, which play a significant role in our economy. However, you all agree with me that that also has a very serious, significant effect on our environment, because as we all know now, all countries are trying to move away from oil, fossil fuel, into renewable energy. So since we are still, our economy is very much dependent on fossil fuel, that means it's a huge problem to our environment. So understanding on mute. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, so understanding environmental law in Nigeria. So environmental law, or generally law, encompasses of set of principles, statutes, regulations, and policies. We also have some international agreements and conventions that when a country ratifies them, or better still domesticate them into their law, then it becomes law enforceable in that country. So what I'm trying to say is, apart from our primary law, which is statutes, regulation, there are some international agreements and conventions that Nigeria is also a signatory to. And by that, if and when Nigeria ratified or domesticate this international agreements and convention, it becomes enforceable in Nigeria. So I'm going to speak, about all this international agreement as it relates to environmental law, and also some sets of principles, statutes, regulations, and policies. So why do we need to understand environmental law or environmental regulations in Nigeria? Environmental law provides a framework for regulating human activities that impact the environment and ensuring sustainable development. Like I mentioned earlier, whatever field that you might be, probably you're specialized in energy, renewable energy, there are still laws that govern that particular area of your focus. And if you don't identify and work with this law, then it's going to affect your work. And that's why it's very important, whatever field we're into, to understand the laws and policy that is regulating that aspect. So environmental law also establish mechanism for preventing and mitigating environmental degradation, pollution, and climate change. There are lots of policies in Nigeria that is helping to prevent and mitigate environmental degradation and policies and pollution, I beg your pardon. So it also safeguards the health and well-being of Nigerian citizens by promoting clean and healthy environments. It also facilitates compliance with international environmental agreements, convention, enhancing Nigeria's reputation as a responsible global citizens. I know that most countries now, they are tackling climate change. And climate change is a big issue that if you are a country, or if any country is not doing anything to prevent climate change, then I don't think such country will be recognized globally. So as much as it's an environmental issue, countries are also complying with all these international agreements so as to position them globally as one of the countries tackling this issue. Environmental law also helps promotes transparency, accountability, and stakeholders' participation in environmental decision making. Most of the environmental policies or law involve stakeholders' participation. So there's a very huge need for stakeholders to come together to, for them to sample or to hear from each and every stakeholders before passing an environmental law or policy, because this will help people to actually own the law or policy. And it doesn't only happen with environmental law. Any law or policy that's going to be passed into for enforcement needs stakeholder participation. So, importance of environmental regulation. I just need it. This is like a background of my presentation because I want you to understand why we actually need environmental policies and why it's important in whatever we are doing. Nigeria dependency on natural resources, especially oil, poses significant environmental challenges. And because of that, we need environmental laws and policies to help mitigate the environmental impacts of us exploring this, because apparently oil is our major economic revenue. So also the present need to combat environmental degradation, which threatens livelihood, health, and overall well-being of citizens, is also one of the reasons why we have to have environmental laws in place. The importance of preserving Nigerian rich biodiversity and unique ecosystem is for the future generation is another reason why it's important to have environmental policies and laws. Addressing the significant consequences of rapid urbanization, population growth, and industrial activities is also another reason why environmental regulations and policies is very important. So the overview of my presentation, I will delve a little into the historical context of Nigerian relationship with environment. And the reason for this is there's a story to why to the evolution of environmental law and policies in Nigeria. Why Nigeria, the reason why they decided to have environmental law and policy and why it's important right now. So I'm going to delve a little into the historical context. I will highlight the environmental challenges that we are facing in Nigeria and go into the regulatory framework and explore efforts and future paths towards environmental sustainability. So the historical context. Before the pre-colonial era, you agree with me that we all live in harmony with nature. At that time, there was no much civilization. So community farm in a very sustainable way. They use food compost as fertilizer for the agriculture, and the major revenue at that time was really agriculture. There was no oil exploration and all that. So at that time, people lived in harmony with nature. And also there are some forest, water, mountain that community really see as their traditional place of worship. So such forest, or you hear story like you must not enter such one particular forest to cut down the tree because it's very sacred. You hear story like you must not go to a particular river to fish or to do washing or to even fetch water because it has an historical story, or the community own that place as very sacred. So all this type of activity is one way or the other preserving our environment. So at this time, people don't really engage in activities that impact the environment negatively. At that time, they live totally in harmony with the environment. Resources were used sustainably, often governed by traditional belief, customs, and taboo. So fast forward to post-colonial. industrialization, as we develop, people started migrating from the rural area to the city. And as people migrate to the city, population continues to grow in the city, and that leads to urbanization, and also industry continues to spring up, causing lots of pollution in the city. So there's a paradigm shift. With colonization came shifts in economy, community-driven conservation to state-driven exploration. So at that time, we had discovered oil, and it's like an economic boom for us. And the more we get this oil from the ground, the more the government don't really care about the environment. And this leads to a lot of environmental issues in Nigeria. Also, with population boom, with urbanization and industrialization comes waste disposal, indiscriminate waste disposing. So a lot of, during the pre-colonial or during the pre-model era, people dispose their waste in a very sustainable way. And at that time, because people don't really have non-biodegradable waste. What I mean is there was no plastic, there was no chemicals, there was nothing that will not really decay. So at this time, people, if you want to wrap your food, probably they use leaf and all those biodegradable material. So at the pre-model era, community, they do communal dump sites. People have that communal binding. You discover lately now we see people in the same community that you don't even know your neighbor, or you see someone building a house and blocking his gutter because it doesn't want the wastewater from the next house to pass through his own gutter. So those kind of issues makes us not having community-driven kind of approaches. So at the pre-modern era, there were communal binding. People come together to do a lot of things together, and this help with environmental issues as well, because they tackle this issue together compared to now that it's individual. So like I mentioned earlier, the nature of waste was it was biodegradable. It's decomposed easily. And at that time, unlike today, there were limited biodegradable waste like plastic and metal. Most material used for everyday purpose were biodegradable, including container made of leaves or wooden grass, tools made of wood or bones, and clothing made from natural fibers. So at that time, people live in harmony with nature. People cherish nature. So there was no civilization, or let me say, there was nothing that will make the environment, that will pollute the environment. So at this time, what are the advantages? There were minimal environmental footprints. The nature and organic nature of waste meant a lower environmental impact. At that time too, the resources were circular system. The waste produced returned to the environment as nutrients, demonstrating an early form of circular economy. So when we talk about circular economy, our forefathers has been practicing this circular economy. So it's not something new, because at that time, food that we're eating, if they have food waste, they have to turn it into compost, because that's the only way they will be able to get fertilizer for their soil, or for whatever they are doing, for farming and all that. So at that time too, there were community bonding, like I stated earlier, collective waste disposal ritual, and so many other environmental related community bonding. So moving forward, or fast forward to today, what are the primary threats to Nigerian natural resources? We have oil spill and pollution. This this is I think the biggest elephant in the room when we talk about Nigeria. So over the past few decades, thousands of oil spill incidents have been recorded, releasing millions of barrels of oil into the environment. So for instance, we have the Shell Bonga spill in 2011, the ExxonMobil in 2008, and so many like that. And what are the impacts? It impacts our aquatic life, it impacts our terrestrial life as well. I don't have to go into details, because I know majority of us are familiar with these challenges. So there is also deforestation, there is biodiversity loss, climate change, flooding, and erosion. So we also have plastic pollution. I've spoken a bit about plastic initially. And plastic is, it's disposing. You see plastic all around us on our streets and in the waterways. I mean, it's a pandemic. So, and this affects our aquatic life. It affects our terrestrial lives as well. So the evolution of environmental law and policy in Nigeria, and that's the Cocoa Incident of 1988. The Cocoa Incident of 1988, it's an incident that made Nigeria realize the importance of having environmental law and policy in place. So prior to 1988, that's prior to the incident, that was largely an absence of specific comprehensive environmental law. So most of our environmental law at that time was derivative. So what I mean by derivative is most of our law is probably Nigeria is a signatory to one international convention. And because of that, we domesticate it, and then that's our environmental law. So there was no specific environmental law or environmental act that creates an agency that we act or that we enforce issues relating to environmental problem. So the development of comprehensive environmental regulation was prompted by cocoa dumping incidents. And what happened then in 1988 was there was this Italian industry that wanted to dispose their hazardous waste, and they shipped it into Nigeria with a label that it's non-hazardous waste. But at that time, Africa was like a dumping ground for all these developed countries. So most of their waste, they just bring it to Africa and dump it. So when this Italian industry, when they came into Nigeria, obviously they have to pass through the border or whatever. So because it was labeled non-hazardous, Nigeria allowed it in. So they dumped this non-hazardous, in quotes, in a village called Koko in Delta State. So after dumping this waste, it was discovered that people in that community started to die, especially children. There were lots of high prevalence of stillbirths. There were, people started developing, very strange diseases. So they needed to investigate, and they discovered that it was the dumping of that hazardous waste that led into that situation for that community. And so there were outcry from Nigeria, from international bodies and all that. And at that time, there was no specific agency that could come in to handle the situation because we do not have any specific environmental acts. So this created a lot of problems. So Nigeria needed to step in immediately and come up with an environmental act that will create an environmental agency that will act when such environmental issue happen. And that was what led to the enactment of the Federal Environmental Protection Act, which created the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, which are the Ministry of Environment and the likes that we have today. So the incident drove Nigeria into becoming an environmentally conscious nation. It marked the turning points in environmental regulations and was pivotal to the enactment of comprehensive legislation for environmental protection. So we could say thank God for cocoa incidents, but on the flip side, a lot of people died and it caused a lot of, disaster in that community. So before 1988, Nigeria has laws such as Factory Act, Oil in Navigable Water Regulation of 1968, Oil Pipeline Act of 1956, Petroleum Act, Petroleum Drilling and Production Regulation, 1969. So you can see that from all the supposedly environmental laws that we have then, most of it is related to oil. And that is because most of our revenue comes from, oil at that time. So the focus of the federal government was oil, until the cocoa incident happened. So after the cocoa incident, like I said, we started having environmental law. So I'm going to go into environmental law and regulation right now. So let's say the parents or the top of every law in Nigeria, or how will I put it, the father, or it's our constitution. So for every law that we have in Nigeria, the constitution is the top. So any law that contravenes the constitution prevail. So if there's a law that if Nigeria make a law, a state makes a law, and in that law, a section of the law contravene what is stated in the constitution, so the constitution prevail. So that's why I'm starting with the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria as it relates to environment. So the constitution is the formulation of every country's law and the basic policy and regulation that governs the country. So the Section 20 of our constitution states that the state shall protect and improve the environment and safeguard the water, air, land, forest, and wildlife in Nigeria. These mandates pave ways for legislations, policies, and regulations, and measures that ensure a sustainable environment. This chapter provides for the environmental protection by the states. However, the provision is merely persuasive and does not possess the binding force of law. So what this means is environmental issues in Nigeria is merely persuasive. There are some fundamental rights that are provided in the Constitution. And those rights, when it is contravened, you have a right to go to court and challenge it. So for instance, your right to life, your right to freedom of association. So those rights are fundamental and they are provided in the Constitution. But when it comes to environmental, or maybe right to environment, right to clean and healthy environment, it is not a right in Nigeria compared to some other country. So like you stated, at least 177 countries have granted constitutional recognition to a right to environment. So some African countries as well, such as Benin, Ethiopia, Niger, Mali, Cameroon, South Africa, Togo, Burkina Faso, and Kenya. In this country, it is clearly stated in their constitution that each individual, each citizen has a right to environment, has a right to clean and healthy environment. However, in Nigeria, it is not your fundamental right. So you can go to court and say, oh, my right has been infringed. My right to clean and healthy environment has been infringed. So I want to, sue someone and, so, but the state is the state that has the right to, make laws, legislations, and policies on environmental issues. But all these laws and policy are only persuasive. It is not a right. So a state can decide not to make environmental law. There's nothing you can't sue them to court and say, oh, I have a right to clean and healthy environment. There's this industry that is created by the states and it's polluting my space, is polluting my environment. Because of that, I can't sleep. The air is polluted. You cannot sue when your right to, clean and healthy environment is infringed, because we do not have a fundamental right to environment compared to other countries in Africa, like South Africa. So another act is the Federal Environmental Protection Agency Act of 1988. And you could see that the act was immediately done after the cocoa incident. So after the cocoa incident, Nigeria discovered that they really need an Environmental Protection Act. And that was what led to the Federal Environmental Protection Agency Act. And that act of 1998 has been repealed by the NESRA Act of 2007. So we do not have the Federal Environmental Protection Agency Act anymore. It has been replaced. And that's what repealed means, that it has been replaced by the NESRA Act of, I beg your pardon, but of 2007. And under the Act, all this following regulations, we have this the following regulation, which I'm still going to talk about later in my presentation. We have a regulation on effluent limitation and all. So I'm still going to talk about later in my presentation. So we have other acts such as Environmental Impact Assessment Act of 1992. The Section 2 of the Act states that provides that the public and private sector of the economy shall not undertake or embark on or authorize any projects or activities without prior consideration of the effects on the environment. So what that is saying is that before you embark on any project or you want to establish industry or facility, probably even as low as little as probably you want to do like a pure water factory, or MTN want to install their masts, they need to do on-the-go environmental impact assessment. And the assessment is there to show the impact that this facility or this project will have on its environment. So there's a certification that will be granted by the Federal Ministry of Environment stating that, okay, this particular project has passed through environmental impact assessment, and so they can continue the construction, whatever. So it has also gone further to include the social impact as well. Probably your project will affect the livelihood of people living there. You need to look at it and see how you can mitigate the impacts on the environment and also on the livelihood of the community or the people living in that area. We also have the Harmful Waste Special Criminal Act of 1988. You can see that this act came into force immediately after the cocoa incident. And the act clearly states that Nigeria is not, you cannot come into Nigeria and dump any kind of waste, especially harmful waste. So it is criminal for any individual or any company to enter Nigerian soil and dump harmful waste in Nigeria. However, part of my reservation on this act is in Africa, Nigeria is a dumping ground when we talk about electronic waste. And you agree with me that electronic waste has also harmful, it has this, what they use to manufacture it also have some harmful parts as well. So when we talk about that Nigeria is not a dumping ground for harmful waste, what about electronic waste as well? So, but that's the discussion for another class or another forum. So we also have National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency Act, NOSDRA. So this specific act deals with oil spill or anything relating to fossil fuel. And there's an agency as well, the NOSDRA agency, that deals on, that handle this matter. There's also Oil in Navigable Act. We have Nigerian Mineral and Mining Act of 2007, Associated Gas Injection Act as well. We also have environmental policies. We have National Policy on Environment of 2006, and it aims to ensure environmental protection and the conservation of natural resources for sustainable development. Its strategic objective is to coordinate environmental protection and natural resources conservation for sustainable environment in Nigeria. We also have the National Policy on Municipal and Agricultural Waste Management of 2012, which promotes sustainable waste management practices and reduces environmental pollution and also improve public health. We have National Policy on Environmental Sanitation of 2005. It provides acceptable level of environmental sanitation to enable Nigeria citizens achieve socially and economical productive life. We have the National Policy on Chemical Management of 2010. It outlined the legal and institutional, administrative, and technical infrastructure for managing chemicals in Nigeria. We have the National Policy on Healthcare Waste Management of 2013. We have the National Policy on Solid Waste Management of 2018. The policy covers all forms of waste, including solid, liquid, gaseous waste, and recognizes the mandatory community involvement in managing waste. We also have the National Policy on Plastic Life Cycle Management of 2019. It was developed to drive resources efficiency, cleaner production, and protection of the environment, as stated in Section 20 of the 1999 Constitution. We have spoken about some laws, policies, and there are also some regulation, like when I was talking about the NESRA, those regulation on the NESRA, we have the National Environmental Wetland, Riverbank, and Lakeshore Regulation of 2009. It provides for the conservation, wide use of wetland and their resources in Nigeria. This regulation are under the NESRA Act. So these are the core purview of NESRA agency in Nigeria. So all these regulations are what they can come in and enforce if all those regulations are infringed by probably individual or an industry. There's also National Environmental Watershed, Mountainous, Hilly Catchment Area Regulation of 2009. There is National Environmental Sanitation and Waste Control Regulation of 2009. The purpose of this regulation is to provide the legal framework for the adoption of sustainable and environmental friendly practices in environmental sanitation. We have the National Environmental Permitting and Licensing System of 2009, the National Environmental Access to Genetic Resources and Benefit Sharing. We have the National Environmental Mining and Processing of Coal, Oil and Industrial Minerals Regulation of 2009. There is one for National Environmental Ozone Layer Protection Regulation. This particular regulation came into force because Nigeria is a signatory. Because Nigeria is a signatory to this international agreement or convention that I'm still going to talk about later in my presentation. The agreement, the convention deals on ozone layer protection. And because Nigeria domesticates this particular convention, and that's why we have National Environmental Ozone Layer Protection Regulation of 2002. There's National Environmental Food, Beverage, Tobacco Sector Regulation. There's National Environmental Textile Regulation. There's regulation on noise standard and control. There's regulation on chemical, pharmaceutical, soap, and detergents. We have regulation on telecommunication and broadcasting facility. There's regulation on soil erosion and flood control of 2011. This particular regulation is to check all heart disturbing activity, practices, or development of non-agricultural, commercial, or industrial purposes. We have on the certification control and drought mitigation. We have on base metal, iron, steel manufacturing. There's regulation on control of bush, forest fire, and open burning. We have on protection of endangered species in international trade. We have on industrial plastic, regulation on industrial plastic, rubber, and foam sector. We have regulation on coastal and marine protection. We have regulation on construction sector. The purpose of this particular regulation is to prevent, minimize pollution from construction, decommissioning, and demolition activities to Nigeria environment. We have on control of vehicular emission from petrol and diesel engine. And this is to improve the quality of air in Nigeria. The standard contain air in provide for the protection of air from pollutants of vehicular emission. We have on non-metallic mineral manufacturing industry. There's regulation on surface and groundwater quality control. There's regulation on electrical and electronic sector. There's regulation on quarry and blasting operation. There's regulation on control of alien and invasive species. There's regulation on paper wood products. We have regulation on motor vehicle and miscellaneous assembly. We have regulation on air quality. We have regulation on charcoal production and exports of 2014. So there's also regulation on dam and reservoir, regulation on hazardous chemical pesticide, regulation on environmental energy sector. The purpose of this regulation is to prevent and minimize pollution and encourage energy efficiency in all operation and ancillary activities of the energy sector in achieving sustainable economic development in Nigeria. So before I move to the international agreements, you agree with me that we have lots and lots of regulations on environment. And I'm very sure that majority of you do not even know that we have so much regulations on virtually all sector in Nigeria, because with all those regulation, I don't think such country should be battling with environmental issues anymore. So you start to wonder that with all this regulation, why are we still talking about environmental pollution, talking about indiscriminate waste disposing and all that? So like I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, that's also part of what formed policies, law, and regulation in a country is also the international agreements and convention. So for environmental space, some of the international agreements and convention that Nigeria is a signatory to and has also come back home to domesticate such law. And with that, such law is applicable in our country. So when we talk about environmental international agreements and convention, one of it is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC, and Nigeria ratified the UNFCCC in 1994. You all know that Nigeria is always going to COP to represent us, the country, and also tell them how we are tackling with the reduction of greenhouse gases in Nigeria. So because we are a signatory to this convention and we had also gone further to ratify it into our domestic law. And so such law is enforceable in Nigeria. So we also have the Paris Agreement, which Nigeria ratified in 2007. In 2017, we have the Convention on Biological Diversity. Nigeria became a party to the CBD in 1994, and that's why we have some policies and regulation that deals with prevention of our loss of biodiversity in the country. We also have the Kyoto Protocol. Nigeria ratified the Kyoto Protocol in 2004. We have the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer. If you remember earlier, I spoke about a regulation that specifically deals with ozone layer. It was gotten from the fact that Nigeria is a signatory to this protocol, and also we've gone to ratify it domestic law, and that's why we have a domestic law that's also helped prevent the depletion of our ozone layer. Then we have the Basel Convention on the Control of Transboundary Movements of Hazardous Waste and their Disposal. This convention, Nigeria is a signatory, and we had also ratified and domesticate laws on prevention of dumping of hazardous waste in Nigeria. Okay, so all right. So what's with all the laws, with all the policy, with all the regulations, there must be some things that is affecting the effective implementation or effective enforcement of all this law. And that's why we are still having environmental issues. So some of the orders in realizing this environmental policy are, it includes interagency conflicts. So multiple regulatory bodies often have overlapping mandates. For instance, the role of Federal Ministry of Environment, NESRA, and NOSDRA sometimes intersect, leading to jurisdictional ambiguity. So most times, NOSDRA deals with oil, fossil fuel and stores relating to oil. NESRA deals with environment. The Federal Ministry of Environment deals with environment. So most times when environmental issues happen, it's always very difficult to know the specific agency that will deal with that issue. And because of that, it leads to, a longer time. They even take each other to court sometimes for the court to actually interpret the rightful agency that it's supposed to deal with that particular issue. So all this causes a lot of delay. It also affects the effective implementation or enforcement of all these policies. So the impact is on clear boundary, amper effective policy, like I mentioned, and then valuable time and resources are spent on resolving internal disputes rather than addressing the particular environmental issue. We also have the issue of corruption and lack of transparency. So the misappropriation of funds, bribery, especially in large-scale environmental projects, can deter projects. For instance, I spoke about environmental impact assessment. So there are some projects that they boycott this environmental impact assessment. They go behind the back to bribe all the agencies that they are supposed to bribe in order to get the certification. And because of this, the normal process of going through the normal process of looking at the project and the impact on the environment, these are forfeited. They don't go through this process because they had bribed their way around it by bribing the agency and getting the certification. So all this affects the effective implementation of all these laws and policy. So there's also infrastructure gap, inadequate facility.
We have just like 5 minutes more for this session. And
yes, I'm almost through. I think I have like 2 slides. Okay, so there's infrastructural gap, inadequate facility for waste management, pollution control, and monitoring. You'll understand that as a developing country, we don't even have data. So all this infrastructural gap also affects effective implementation of all this policy. Then capacity building challenges. The personnel that works in these agencies, they don't even understand environmental issues properly. So how will they be able to enforce or implement such laws? So this capacity building is necessary. So there's a gap there's a knowledge gap, and this also affects the effective implementation. So there is lack of political will. Because of our time, I'm just going to run through. Lack of political will. Most times government do not put enough fund in environmental issues. So this affects the effective implementation of all this policy. There's economic interest, insufficient funding, bureaucratic red tape over complex administration process can lead to delay in execution of beneficial environmental projects. We have a weak enforcement mechanism. There's knowledge gap. I've spoken about that. Then lack of awareness, public awareness. A lot of people do not even understand all these environmental issues. A lot of people do not even know about all these policies and regulations. So because of this lack of awareness, it also affects the effective implementation of all this policy. We have the cultural and traditional practices as well. So paving way forward, promoting circular economy, unban greening, agricultural shifts. We can also imbibe in ecotourism, support renewable energy, plastic alternative, look for plastic alternative, and also education and youth engagements. So I want to end with this quote. Policy is driven by more than just politics. It's driven by people and their priority. That's by Gina McCarthy. So, and what the quote is saying is to remind us that it is not only about government. When we talk about governance or we talk about government and all this policy, it also involves you and I to be able to make sure that all these policies and law are enforced and implemented properly. So it's a call for active public engagement, a recognition of power of collective will in shaping policy direction. So thank you so much for having me. And I hope you all enjoyed the class and I've gained one or two things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's an amazing session indeed. Very, very insightful. And I know that our participants are actually gaining value for their time this session. So we are just going to take two questions quickly, a male and a female. We try as much as possible to make it very brief. And there are some questions on the Q&A session already. And I feel we can just go to that aspect. The very first question is from Adam. What are the requirements laid by federal or state government for one to establish waste management company in Nigeria? And I also want to assume that Ogegere is a female. We are here for the sake of effective waste management and circular economy. Which law do you think should pay more attention? Should we pay more attention to as it concerns this area of waste and recycling? I would just appreciate you briefly attend to this question, man.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Briefly, I think both questions are the same, right? Establishing waste management company and then law to focus on when we talk about recycling and waste. So generally, I always advise that when you are venturing into any product or whatever you want to establish a company on a particular aspect, you need to go ahead and look at the law that is dealing with that particular aspect of what you want to do. So for waste management and recycling, in Nigeria right now, we do not have specific like a federal law that covers all states. So it depends on the state that you want to establish your recycling or, whatever waste management thing that you are doing. It depends on the law of the state because each state have their environmental law that is governing them. You remember in my presentation, I mentioned that the Constitution gives states the right to make law and policy on environmental issues. So the law that works in probably Lagos State can be different from the law governing environment and waste management in Oyo State, for instance. So, for instance, in Lagos State now, there's a ban on single-use plastic, especially xylophones. All this single-use plastic, So, and in Oyo State, there's nothing like that. So it depends on the particular state that you are establishing your waste management plants or recycling plants in. But however, generally, there is no law or policy at the federal that you need to, look into when establishing. It depends on the state that you're establishing your facility in.
Yeah. Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. And we sincerely appreciate the in-depth of knowledge you've shared with us this evening. And I know that every fellow on this call have gained a whole lot of things this evening. And we are so grateful to have you once again. We are so grateful to have you facilitate this session this evening over and over. I remember she was the one that facilitated in 2023. And here she's also on this score again. Thank you so much, Madam Ebenezer. We so much appreciate your presence. And right about now, we are going to be having our second session, and which is also going to be focused on sustainable waste management. And I earlier mentioned that we have some industry leaders in our midst this evening, and they are not just leaders, they are people that you can depend to as mentors. So we advise you to also connect with Madam Oluwaseyi Ebenezer on LinkedIn, and get to learn what she has learned before and follow her good footsteps. So this evening I'm delighted to introduce guest who is going to be facilitating the next session in person of Madam Temitope Okunu. And she is... Hello, I hope you can still hear me. Hello. Okay, thank you. I'm glad to introduce Madam Temitope, who has over 15 years of experience in environmental health and sustainability. She's passionate about facilitating sustainable solutions and empowering young people and women to take climate action. And she's a founder of FABE International Foundation, a non-profit organization that promotes environmental education, zero waste culture, sustainability, and conservation in Nigeria and beyond. This evening, we are so delighted to have you, Madam Temitope, on this call as you lead the session, which is focused on environmental pollution and sustainable waste management. Thank you for joining this evening, Ma. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. Good evening, everyone. And good evening to my sister that just finished her session, Mrs. Ebenezer. Good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. Can you permit me to share my slide?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Kindly let me know if you can see my slide.
Yes, your slide is up. We can see it now.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, my laptop is hanging at the moment, so just give me a little bit of time.
All right, that's fine. That's fine, man. Just take your time. And we are always glad to have you on the call. And to each and every fellow, I believe you already had a great session. Definitely, we are still going to have a feedback session after this last session from Madam Temitope. You definitely share your experience from day one to today. And so these are things which we are going to engage on. And also, if you have questions as regards the next phase of the program, we are going to be attending to that. I believe the program managers are also on the call to attend to some of your questions. All right, over to you, Madam Temitope.
All right. If it still keeps hanging, I think I have to stop my share and then reshare again. But in the meantime, thank you so much for having me here again. So we're going to be having a discussion I want it to be as interactive as possible. So everyone, I want you to be on your keyboard or your phone pad. So if I ask a question, you can drop it in and then I can see, and then we can interact. So tonight we're talking about environmental pollution and sustainable waste management. But first and foremost, I would like to understand if we know the importance, we want to know the importance of understanding environmental pollution in the first place and sustainable waste management for creating a healthier and a more sustainable world. Well, in doing that, I want you to know that, the basis of environmental pollution and waste management is crucial for creating a healthier environment for you and I, a more sustainable world for several reasons. Environmental pollution, for example, whether it is from air, water, soil, plastic, has had significant implications for human health. And by understanding these sources and the impact of their pollution, all of us here, including communities where we live, can take proactive measures to minimize exposure and reduce health risk, thereby improving overall well-being. We also need to understand that pollution poses, significant threats to biodiversity and ecosystems' health. It would disrupt delicate ecosystems like our wildlife. It would degrade our natural habitats. So the knowledge of pollution sources and their effects would allow us, to target conservation efforts to protect our ecosystems and ensure, of course, long-term resilience, because some of us are very young here and some of us are older. So we still have a lot of time to manage such. And in also addressing our climate changes. Greenhouse gas emissions, for example, contribute to climate change, as we all know. So understanding that link between the pollution or pollution generally and climate change is essential for implementing effective mitigation strategies, such as reducing our carbon emissions, pollution, promoting renewable energy sources. And then again, sustainable waste management practices can include recycling, composting, waste reduction. All of this can help us conserve valuable resources. And then, of course, Madam has also made mention of promoting environmental justice. So pollution often disproportionately affects marginalized communities and vulnerable populations, exacerbating social inequalities. And understanding the social and environmental justice implications of pollution, we can advocate for equitable policies and initiatives that prioritize the need for frontline communities and ensure fair access to all of the natural resources that is ours: air, water, land. So today, I want us to know that in explaining and talking about environmental pollution and sustainable waste management, for me, it is simply waste to wealth. Let me see if my phone, I think I have to stop the share. It's still not, I still cannot get can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Just stop sharing and you share.
Yes, I think I need to stop sharing. I really don't know what's going on.
Maybe you just totally stop sharing screen and reload it again, ma.
So if you can hear me, I think my laptop just hung up. I mean, I really don't know. It's never happened like this before.
Yes, it actually, we saw your entire PowerPoint slide earlier. So I was
Okay.
suggesting you stop sharing the screen. You stop sharing entirely the PowerPoint,
Okay.
then again. I feel it should work that way. Hello, ma. Hello. Can you hear me? Hello. Hello, Madam. Can you hear me, ma?
I can hear you. Can you?
So I want to suggest, if you can leave it this way, can you go to second slide now? I want to see if at all it responds immediately, so we can just make use of it this way instead of the full screen.
Hello.
Okay, we can hear you, ma.
Okay. I don't know what's going on, but I'll just go ahead with what I have. Okay. All right.
So what I
was-
is, hello, ma. If you can see, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I was suggesting you can go to your second slide now. You can just click on the second page of your presentation. I want to see if it's going to respond.
Okay. Let me try that again. So what is happening right now is that it's static. It's not moving.
Oh,
I think I don't know what's going on. So let me just go ahead with and then I can try it again later. So I don't keep you waiting. All right.
okay,
So
that's
I was talking about environmental pollution and sustainable waste management. And for me, I believe it's simply called waste to wealth. All right. It's the concept of waste to wealth that transforms waste into an opportunity. There's something we say at FAME International Foundation. We say waste is not waste until it is completely wasted. Based on that, I'd like to congratulate, wish everybody. Today is the second year of celebrating zero waste all over the world. It's a global celebration. International Zero Waste Day. So congratulations, everyone. Going forward, did you know that every year, this world generates over 2 billion tons of municipal solid waste? Enough to fill a line of garbage trucks stretching around the earth 7 times. And that's a lot. Nigeria generates 32 million tons of waste per year, among the highest in Africa. And of the waste generated yearly, only 2.5 million tons is plastic waste. And that's about 20 to 30% of it being collected and managed correctly, most of which, that's the remaining 70%, ends up either in our dump site, in our drainages, our beaches, water bodies, or it's either dumped in unauthorized places, or burned, which is even the very worst part of it, contributing to more pollution and environmental health risk. Recently, about 3 weeks ago, I was at Shangotedu, and a woman was gathering sachet waste. It's usually aluminum sachet. And I think our guys that drive, the drivers, the bus conductors, they drink it a lot. It's inside a sachet. Usually they say it's energy drink or something like that, and they're always drinking it, you know. So she was gathering a lot, and I was asking, why are you gathering this? And she said she's going to use it to cook in the evening. So that got my curiosity, and I'm like, okay, so you burn this to cook. Does it create some sort of energy or what? I really don't understand that, but that is what Nigeria is doing at this moment, burning a whole lot of waste, going back to where we're coming from. Waste is a misplaced wealth. When we start putting this into our subconscious, our consciousness, waste is a misplaced wealth. And if you're able to tap into it, you begin to see the amazing resources that waste, that we call waste, is, but is a resource. Now, World Bank reported that 0.51 kilogram of waste is generated daily by a Nigerian. So every Nigerian, every day we generate 0.51 kilogram. When I got this report, I decided I was going to reduce that number in my household. Now, it is also forecasted to rise to about 107 million tons by 2050, a development that presents both a threat and also an opportunity. Take, for example, Lagos State generates over 14,000 metric tons of refuse daily, according to our former commissioner, Tunji Bello. So when we talk about sustainable waste to wealth concept or sustainable waste management, you know, that concept centers around the idea of transforming waste materials, which are typically discarded, into valuable resources or products. We recognize that many waste materials still have inherent value and can be reused, repurposed, recycled, upcycled, or otherwise transferred or processed to create economic, environmental, and local benefits. Waste, remember, is a resource. It is not a waste until it is completely wasted. Let me try that slide thing again. Let's see if it is working. Can you see my slide? Is it changing at all, Mr. Emmanuel, before I go ahead?
No, it's not changing at all. I could have suggested if you can send it to, okay, I think it's changing now. Can you click on the second one?
Let's see.
Yeah, perfectly. It's changing now. So
it's
we can see
changing
clearly
now.
that.
Okay,
yes.
Fantastic, fantastic. Okay, fantastic. So, okay. So as we were saying, if you look at my slide now, I think I have to increase the, okay. Anyway, so as we were saying, Okay. So the concept of waste to wealth centers around, the idea of sustainable waste management. Let's talk about the fundamentals now of the principles of waste to wealth concept. Resource optimization. Waste materials are seen, to, I don't know if you can't see my slide again. Shoot, what's going on? Anyway, we'll just go ahead, like I was saying. So resource optimization, for example, waste materials are seen as resources in disguise. Instead of disposing of them in landfills or incinerating them, waste can be harnessed to recover raw materials, energy, or other valuable outputs. Economic opportunities. Waste to wealth initiatives create economic opportunities. They can lead to development of new businesses, jobs, industries focused on recycling, upcycling, or repurposing. We can also divert them from dump sites, landfills, and reduce them for the need of virgin resources. Waste to wealth practices contribute to environmental sustainability, and they minimize pollution. They conserve natural resources and lower greenhouse gas emissions. Now, when we talk about the social benefits, the initiatives often have positive social impacts. They can empower communities by providing income-generating opportunities, improving public health by reducing waste-related hazards, and encouraging community engagement. Okay. Today, I don't know what's going on, but we're just
Sorry,
going to...
did you enable full screen?
Yes, I did.
Can you just disable that full screen? I feel we can still flow with the way it was before, not to stretch from the presentation as well.
All right. Okay, so we're just going to leave it at the way it is. So when we talk about sustainable waste management, we should also not or ever overlook the aspect of circular economy. Our sustainable waste to wealth, like I said at the beginning of this session, our sustainable waste management, which I like to say sustainable waste to wealth, because I like people to start seeing waste as a resource, waste as wealth, waste as a means of livelihood. Even though elder people may call it waste, but we need to begin to change our mindset and say, yes, it is waste, because it is important for people to generate waste. People will always generate waste. As human beings, will always generate waste. But what does that waste mean to you? That concept aligns with the principles of circular economy, where products and materials are designed to be refused. Please note the R, because I'm going to ask that question after this session. These materials need to be refused, they need to be reduced, reused. Reusing can also be called upcycling. Upcycling is the creative reuse of waste materials into functional products of high environmental value. Reuse can also be called upcycled or repurposed. And then lastly, on your list should be recycling or to be recycled. Now, this promotes the idea of closing the loop, minimizing the waste that we all generate, and maximizing resource efficiency. The circular economy is a model of production and consumption, which involves sharing, leasing, reusing, repairing, and refurbishing. And of course, recycling existing materials and products as long as possible. That's why we call it sustainable. We are able to sustain that particular waste for a long period of time. The fact that we're able to keep it in the loop for a long period of time before even ever discarding it. This way, the life cycle of products is extended. These concepts present a shift in our mindset from a linear take, make, dispose model to a circular, sustainable, and resource-efficient model. It acknowledges that waste is not the end of the product of a material or product's life cycle, but a potential starting point for a new economic and environmental value. So the concept is very critical today in addressing global challenges and also local challenges. When we talk about waste management, resource depletion, or environmental degradation, while offering innovative and sustainable solutions for the future. So, waste to wealth is not just a catchy phrase, but it is a transformative ethos. It demonstrates our capacity to reimagine challenges as opportunities and to actively contribute to a cleaner, greener, and more prosperous future. So we have, I have some different, would I call it ethos I would like to, mention here today. For example, environmental impact. When your waste is left unaddressed, it pollutes our environment. When waste is underutilized, we should find innovative ways to repurpose them and recycle them. When we talk about waste to wealth practice, it aligns with the principles of sustainability. These practices can uplift communities, especially in regions with limited economic opportunities. Today, recycling is helping people come out of hunger, poverty. Because why? They do not have any means of livelihood. Those who even have livelihood today, because of the economic challenges, they are out of job. And so we have seen many people come to us and say, what can I do in this space? All you need to do is to start promoting environmental sustainability through recycling, upcycling, composting, and many other ways by which we can, promote sustainable waste management. Many women and their husbands or fathers have started recycling in a sustainable way and earning from it. And that's why I mentioned in the first, when I began the session, waste is wealth. It is a resource. So reduction from landfill pressure, as this business of waste to wealth diverts waste from our landfill or dump sites, they also reduce the burden on waste management infrastructure and help to, extend landfill hello?
We can hear you. We can hear you, ma.
I'm going to log in with my phone. I'm going to log in with my phone. Please accept my apologies.
Okay,
So
that's
sorry.
fine.
I'm going to log in with my phone now. All the beautiful things I wanted you guys to see. Internet is not helping us at all. Kindly unmute me.
What's the name of your second device? Then you might have to disable one of the speakers because of this
Okay.
echo.
Let me see.
What's the name of your second device, man?
Temitope Okuno.
Okay. Can't find it. Okay, you can go ahead and unmute or say.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but there's this echo. So you might have to mute one of the speakers of your two devices because of the echo.
Hello?
We can hear you, ma'am. But there is this echo that we are hearing at our end. You might have to disable the speaker for your laptop or your phone to avoid that echo. Or you reduce the volume to the least.
Is it okay?
Yes, it is now. It is now.
All right. Apologies for this whole okay, so we will talk about the challenges now, the opportunities that we can get from sustainable waste management. I would have loved to show some pictures of how, because I know there are many people here that would like to go into the recycling space or the composting space or some other sustainable waste management space. But then, apologies, I might have to do this once again sometime soon or something. I really don't know how we're going to work this out. But anyway, innovation and creativity is one thing that I like you to always put into perspective anytime you're talking about sustainable waste management. Our sustainable waste to wealth approach encourages innovation and creativity. It challenges us to find solutions to these complex problems that we see around us and to think differently about waste material. So even if you're going into this sector or you're learning about this sector, you must bring in your own A game. You must bring in your creativity when you're working. Recycling, for example, and upcycling reduces the need, for virgin resources. So this conserves energy, water, and raw materials. And you know what you're doing by that. You're making sure that we have more raw materials on Earth rather than depleting them. On a global scale, embracing these practices contributes to, the achievement of sustainability goals, including those outlined in the Sustainable Development Goals, which I'm sure that you already know. And then we find out that this strategy empowers individuals, people, communities to take control of the environmental impact and also financial well-being. So giving them the tools to create positive change. Now, we have a population growth in Nigeria of over 200 million. Waste collection system is deficit. Scientific processes of the waste material, is by nature. Now, developing infrastructure for circular economy practices, such as the ones that we have mentioned, that both recycling, upcycling, composting, and further processing, developing technology, information, data collection. All of these systems are, some of the challenges. And of course, you can always see an opportunity in everything. Take a good look around you. What kind of waste can you find around you? You just drop it down. We don't want to just drop it on your chat. I will read it and see what kind of waste. What kind of waste do you have around you? Where should I check now? Chat or what kind of waste do you find around you? Plastic. Thank you so much. I mean, that is just number one. Polythene, electronic waste. Thank you. Plastics. I mean, many people are really mentioning plastics, pure water sachet, plastics. Yeah, because why? Every one of us wants to take water now. There's so much heat in the land. There's so much heat. So we need water. Either our water comes in the sachet or they come in the plastic bottle. And why would I blame anybody? Do we have good water to drink? No. Do we have good water coming from our taps? No, we don't have that infrastructure. If you look at the chart now, you see that 70 to 80% of the waste that people can find around them is plastic. Other waste are tires, of course, food waste. Thank you, Lydia, for mentioning agricultural waste. Food waste is another kind of waste. Yes, thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Mary, for giving us that aspect of fashion waste as well. We have a lot of food waste. We have a lot of fashion waste. These are places that people have not even tapped into. But guess what? There's a lot of opportunity when it comes to fashion waste, food waste, and plastic waste. Now, did you know that over 50% of our waste is food waste? The rampant growth of the consumer market has given rise to an alarming variety of packaging materials, including these non-biodegradable options that you are talking now, that you are mentioning, that you are writing down, typing down: nylon, paper, cans. Have you guys forgotten aluminum foils? And of course, plastics. The use of these materials has caused immeasurable damage to the environment. Immeasurable damage to the environment. And it is imperative that we take action to address this issue immediately. So I know that you guys are here to learn. You're also here for business. So guess what? I want you to be different from the kind of businessmen and women that we have in this space today. They are all about business. But I want you to have the emotional empathy, part of it, that talks about advocacy, that talks about the humanity in what you're doing. The humanity in what you're doing. Food waste, yes, thank you. Yes, food waste is part of the food waste that we're talking about. I want you to add the humanity part of it, whereby when you're doing your business, or when you're talking or doing advocacy, you are putting in the human part of it, where people see what you're talking about and are able to chime into it so that there can be action. Because when there is action, of course, the money will flow, whether you like it or not. There are laws. Mrs. Sheyi Ebenezer has talked about it earlier. Why are we not obeying those laws? Is it that we are ignorant, or we are headlong, or are we recalcitrant? Or guess what? Are we seeing opportunities? You tell me, what are you seeing? Are you ignorant of the laws? Are you headlong, or you're just recalcitrant? Or basically, you are seeing the opportunities right now. You tell me which of these that you belong to. Sustainable waste recovery opportunities are just enormous. Let me tell you something. Globally, waste management market has been valued to $1.3 trillion US. And it is projected to reach what? $2 trillion US by 2030. We are in 2024. And guess what? And I think this has even tripled. Why? Our economy, particularly in Nigeria, has made it like that. How many people are in Nigeria again? Can somebody remind me? Put it down on the chat. How many people? How many people are in Nigeria? Do we know the population of Nigerians? Thank you very much. Borno, thank you. We are not 1 billion, oh, come on. Okafo. Okafo, we are not 1 billion, oh, please. We are over 200 million. Thank you so much for those who know. Now, remember what I said earlier. It is said that each one of us here generates how many kg of waste per day? For those who are following me, how many kg of waste do we generate per day? For those of you following me. We have brilliant people here. Oh, Christiana, thank you so much, Mary and Ibrahim. Is 0.5 kg of waste is generated by one human being in Nigeria per day. That means about 100,000 tons of waste is generated per day. Market value of waste management in Nigeria is 4 billion per day. The market value of waste management in Nigeria is 4 billion per day. The opportunity here is to create sustainable green jobs, especially when the unemployment rate increases every day. Who is seeing the opportunities today? Who is seeing that opportunity now? Who wants to tap into this 4 billion? 4 billion naira per day. That is the opportunity we see in sustainable waste management. So I have heard people say, oh, Temi Tope, you're too tush for this. Why don't you do, da, 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 da. I'm like, excuse me. When something is your calling, is your calling. You wake me up at the middle of the night and talk about sustainable waste and tell me, talk about sustainable, I will open up my laptop. In fact, without my laptop or my phone, I can disseminate trainings, advocacy, whatever, grant interviews. I mean, I granted interview on TVC how many months ago at 10 p.m. when they just called me for an urgent meeting, interview with the GM of La Cepa. So what I'm trying to say is that you have to imbibe these principles. And that is why I mentioned earlier that you must have the humanity part of it. Because if you're focused on business, you might be frustrated out of the business. But if you come with it from the side of humanity, from the side of passion, from the side that you want to help your neighbor, or you want to make sure that, we're actually living the talk, walking the talk, then you can't be frustrated out of the business if eventually you come into the business. So sustainable waste management innovation, let's name it again. 1, refuse. Who can tell me the second one? Because I mentioned it earlier while the network was blah, blah, blah. What was the second one? The first one was to refuse. The second one, the second R is what? The second R is what? To reduce. Thank you, Kinsley. Thank you. I can't pronounce your name, but I'll try. Enamil. Oh, don't let me just spoil that name. Thank you so much. Reduce. And then the third one is what? The third one is what? Reuse. And what other name can we call the reuse? What other name did I say we can call reuse? What other name did I say we can call reuse? Upcycle. Thank you, Tosin. Thank you, Mary. Upcycle. Remember, upcycling is the creative reuse. That's when you see, I wish you can see my slide, because I have very beautiful upcycling technology that I posted here. So upcycling is when you turn, let me give you an example, tires to table, PET bottles to chandeliers, PET bottles to bricks, PET bottles to beautiful things, PET bottles to t-shirts, to tote bags. So your attachment, women, our attachments can be made from PET bottles. Guys, our shirts, our trainers, sneakers. Did you know that our best footballer wore the trainers made from PET bottles? Did you know that? What's his name again? Who can remind me his name? The one that this African. I'm not a football fan. Don't mind me, but I always follow the sustainability trends, and I knew that this guy wore that trainers. Let me see. I think it was posted on FABE International Foundation's Instagram page. Let me see now. FABE International Foundation's page. I think we have it there. Let me quickly look at it. Okay, yes. Nigeria's captain. What's his name again now? Ekong. Yeah, Nigeria's Super Eagles captain, Ekong. Yeah. He wore these beautiful eco-friendly boots. We call it the green boots now. And that's one thing that, thank you so much. Yes, thank you. So, that's one thing we're talking about. One of us here can be a maker, a distributor for such, sustainable wares. And then the fourth one is what? Rot, which is to compost. R-O-T, rot, which is to compost. Composting your food waste recycling your food waste into compost so that farmers, gardeners can use it to grow their foods at home. I'm always proud of saying this, that, I have over 17 different kinds of veggies in my home, and I've also helped other women to grow vegetables at home. I also grow yams, sweet potatoes, using the food waste that I generate from my home. The food waste I generate from my home, I use it as fertilizer. Some trees that I plant around my home, such as the neem tree, such as the moringa tree, king of bitters and the likes, pepper and all, I use them as my pesticide. So I no longer have to use those toxic chemicals to grow my food, causing health damage as well as environmental damage. And then the last but not the least is, somebody tell me, the last but not the least is what? Recycle. Thank you so much. I wish I can show you my pictures right now, because right now I can see how rugs are being made from banana stems, PET bottles are being made, and shirts are being made from PET bottles, jewelries from PET bottles, and a whole lot of other things that I would have loved to show you on my slide. But anyway, regardless, I want you to know that the circular economy that we're talking about is an opportunity for us to use waste as a resource. Waste is not the end of a product's life cycle. It is a potential of but a potential starting point for new economic and environmental value. Waste can be brought back to life. I see a lot of people recycling these days for the wrong motives. Money, money, money. Yes, money will come, but are you creative about it? When you say you want to start recycling today, what is your end game? Or do you want to just be doing collection? And there's one particular name they call them, those people who collect plastic on the road, those malams. Or you want to be Bola? That's the name, Bola. Is that what you want? Or you want to be able to create resource from waste so that the Nigerian economy can change because of you? Tires are turned into footwears, into flip-flops. There was a launch of a flip-flop brand by Free Recycle earlier this month. You know, I was opportune to see it. It was wonderful. Do you want to change? Do you want to turn the Nigerian economy to only buy Nigeria made? That is how I want you to think. That is what I want you to go home with tonight. I want you to go home thinking, what can I produce? A producing nation can never be a rich nation. We need to be a producing nation. And the producers should be youths. You youths, young, vibrant, intelligent, creative, innovative youths. These are the people that we want to come on board. Partner with foundations, partner with businesses, bring out your A game, because we know that you have the answers to these things. But then do not let money be your number one priority. If you do, you're going to get frustrated out of business. I see a number of people on this call, almost 100, over 70 people on this call. And it gives me great delight that you mean young people are interested in recycling. I mean, the name of this program is Recycle Up, right? Recycle Up. I love that name. Yes, we want to recycle up. But in recycling up, what are our priorities? What are our priorities? Are we just focusing, I want to make money, fast money? Forget it. You cannot make fast money in this sector. If you do, you're going to get frustrated. I keep saying, I've mentioned frustration 3 times now. Fashion waste that somebody mentioned earlier can be turned into beautiful, beautiful art and craft. I don't know if you know Joke in Ibadan makes beautiful stuff from fashion waste, turns them to bags and shoes, and different companies have started going to her to help them turn their own waste to something beautiful. So tell me, what would you like to do today? Planet 3R, thank you, God bless you, Joke. You know, Planet 3R, you know, what are you doing? What do you want to do with your creativity? Have you seen where they turn paper waste into suspended ceilings? And that is what the Eco School program does. All the schools that generate waste, paper waste, we take it to a recycler who turns it into suspended ceilings for schools who do not have ceilings. You know, some of low-cost schools, low-income schools and public schools that do not have, ceilings, that they are exposed to the roofing sheet, and that causes a lot of heat in the classrooms and all of that. These are the things, many things that we can, turn food waste into. For construction waste, You know, all of your construction materials can be turned into another construction material. That's the funny thing about it. Food waste can be turned into compost, like I said, to grow beautiful things. Paint buckets can be used to grow food instead of digging up the ground, particularly for those who don't have soil in their compound but have cemented floors. You can grow in tires, you can grow on rooftops, on your walls. I mean, name it. Name it. Before I go, unmanaged waste harms the environment. It harms the economy and the society. It is selfish of you not to manage your waste. It is selfish of you to throw your waste on the floor after hearing this session today. It will be selfish of you to open the window of your car or the bus that you are and now throw that pure water sachet after drinking it from the window. It will now be selfish of you to dispose or commingle your waste with other waste. Commingle your food waste with PET bottle after this session. We know that the waste that we treat that way will pollute our air. And this air, we share it together. It will pollute our water. This water, we share it together. It will pollute our soil. This soil, it is what is used by the farmers to generate the food that you and I will eat. It is contributing to climate change. That is why you're feeling the heat where you are. And of course, it would lead to more loss of jobs. So you better hold your job very well if you have one, because many people are out of job today. And of course, many people are in the hospital. They have health issues, health problems. So what is your decision today? In developed countries, waste is sorted by type, reducing their landfill waste and increasing recycling composting. Our electrical waste, medical waste, they are stored separately due to health risk. In Nigeria, we have several companies in the recycling space that are professionally managing our city waste sustainably. We have RecycleUPNG, we have Green Hill, we have street waste, we have Tidy Nigeria. All you need to do is start sorting your waste and recycle. If you don't want to start a business now, recycle with a recycler close to you. Find out which recycler is close to me. Can I start recycling? And guess what? You can even start recycling and making money. For example, we have the Tidy Nigeria Hub in several communities in Lagos State. And many women today, in fact, I'm so surprised that wealthy women and men come to the Recycle Hub today. And I know it is because of the economic challenges that we're facing today, because everybody wants to earn. So they come, they bring their PET bottles and say, how much is my money now? How much is my money now? Is it 3,000? Is it 2,000? At least it is buying matches. It is buying recharge card. And it is buying diapers or sanitary pad, right? Starting a waste to wealth business is a transformative journey that holds the potential to create positive impact on the environment and your community. So if you start that recycling business, a sustainable business today, you will not just be making money, but you will positively impact your environment and of course your community. Now, what do you need to do? Identify your niche. We've been talking about, is it fashion waste? Is it food waste? Like me now, I'm looking for people to partner with me on food waste. I already have enough partners on plastic waste. Identify your niche. Do your market research. That's a different ball game. I won't teach you that. I'm sure RecycleUP will do that for you. Have a business plan. Comply with legal and regulatory bodies. Look for funding and resources, because guess what? You can't do it on your money alone. And I do not advise you to loan. Source your materials. Processing, read more on how to process your technique. Focus more on marketing and branding. And of course, understand your challenges. And of course, again, know your solutions. Collaborate more. Don't say it's my own, my own, my own. We don't want those small niches. We don't want anybody to work in silos. We must work together. And if I'm not working in your space, introduce me to somebody that is working in my space. Measure your impact, very important. Measure your impact and what? Promote your success stories. No matter where you are, level 1, level 10, level 100, put it on Instagram, put it on Twitter, put it on Facebook. Let people see your growth. That is how you will win. In 2021, I decided that I was going to go, in 2019, I decided I was going to go door to door to collect recyclables from my neighbors. I decided 2020. COVID struck. I didn't do it until 2021. But I was still doing. I did something in 2019. I continued in 2020 after COVID was lifted off. By 2021, CNN was interviewing me. Oh, yes. And I started from my compound. I brought people's waste into my compound. I remember my husband would say, hey. I'll say, don't worry. Today, we have different 10 recycling hubs in different locations in Lagos State, collecting, recycling people's waste, and also rewarding and empowering women. Your success story starts from you. Remember your humanity aspect. Your humanity aspect. I don't want to partner with somebody that is all about money. So if you're all about money, please don't even come near me. I come from an humanity. Who is that? I've seen a lot of messages. Okay. Let us create a group to partner. Yeah. Talk to Recycle Hub. We can partner together. All right. We need to make sure that you are very passionate. You need to be passionate. You need to want to help humanity. We need to want to help humanity. All right. We need to want to help humanity. Fashion waste. Do you know that I have a sister-in-law that uses fashion waste to create bags, shoes, accessories that is not sold in Nigeria but abroad? Yes, so that's what I'm trying to talk about. So Nigerian people just buy as, well, let me just collect your naira. She's a pound sterling woman. She's a dollar woman. And she sells her fashion waste to international business. So what am I talking about? Waste is not waste until it is completely wasted. Let me round up by telling you the funding opportunities that you can get. So instead of maybe just partnering with me alone, there are so many funding opportunities for circular economy initiatives, including waste to wealth project. Remember, circular business models are available from various sources. These opportunities can help support your transition to a more sustainable and resource-efficient economic system. Remember, when looking for funding for your waste to wealth project or for your sustainable waste management project, it is important to tailor your proposal according to the goals and needs of the funding source. So when in 2021, CNN interviewed me, by 2022, I was getting Coca-Cola funding from Atlanta, Georgia. From Atlanta, I was getting Coca-Cola funding. So that is how it's supposed to look like. Do you understand? Emphasize the environmental, social, and economic benefits or advantages of your project and showcase its potential for a long-term sustainability and scalability. Moreover, it is advisable to seek assistance from various sources to diversify your funding and minimize financial risk. So some of you might not be business people, so you need to get help. That's what I mean. Okay? Governments have grants and programs. There are environmental and sustainability grants. So I mentioned Coca-Cola Foundation grant in Atlanta. You can also, get that grant. Ellen MacArthur Foundation grant, World Wildlife Fund. Now, let me give you a secret. You see, I said World Wildlife Fund. You say, what is wildlife got to do with environmental pollution? I laugh because do you know that many of our plastics end up in the marine ocean, in the marine and in the ocean, endangering wildlife, the marine wildlife? So if you partner with someone like Wildlife Fund and say, all the wildlife in Lagos, so you want to, there's a way you would write your proposal to suit, like I said before, you have to suit the need of the funding source. There are other corporate sustainability initiatives for product innovation, recycling programs, upcycling projects, circular economy investment funds too. We have social impact investors. There are research and innovation grants, because I know there are some researchers around amongst us today, scientists and all of that. We also have sustainable development and climate funds. Mr. Emmanuel knows more of that. The UNDP funds, UNEP fund, that's United Nations Environmental Program funds. You can also do crowdfunding, peer-to-peer lending. There are community and foundation grants. Like, for example, we also have grants from Aspire Coronation Trust Foundation that helps us to bring recycling to schools, for example. And then you can collaborate, together. There are collaborative partnerships. So explore collaboration opportunities with other organizations like mine, like Faith International Foundation, for example. Non-for-profits, we're a non-for-profit organization, businesses, educational institutions. All of these partnerships can provide financial and in-kind support for circular economy waste-to-wealth projects. Even though we cannot, Faith International Foundation might not be able to give you funding, but of course we can give you something like this, in-kind support, projects and all of that. I cannot have it on chat, so please, can you share the PDF file? Okay, we'll try and do that. So if you have any questions, finally, we're able to even talk. Thank God, because I really don't know why my laptop did what it did to me for the first time, but I'm happy that we are able to connect and interact. So if you know that you enjoyed this class, let me hear one or two things from you guys as I close and round up this session. Our call to action is what? Number 1, refuse waste, reduce it, reuse or upcycle it or repurpose it, make it rot by composting it, and then recycle. Thank you so much for having me. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this engaging session, Madam Temitope. I want each and every one of us to go to the comment section and celebrate and give a comment on how it was really insightful and impactful. It's not just about slides or, there sometimes can be technical issues or network issues, but beyond that, we still overcome and we had a good depth of knowledge from you. Thank you so much. You can see the comments as we are having an overflow impact and this evening. Thank you so much, Madam Temitope. So quickly, and I'm also glad that part of the sessions for bootcamp, she has already done that, and it's an eye-opener for each and every one of us. And quickly, we just like to give room to some people to ask questions. If you have a question in line to the session this evening, you can raise your hand and I'm going to call on you to speak. This time around, I want people to speak, so not just you dropping your question. So you can raise your hand if your question is directly to what she has taught or spoken on. You can raise your hand and ask your question, but you're not being in line to partnership. So, it's not starting from there. So, and another thing which I want each and everyone on this call to understand is most especially the upcoming one. She mentioned, she shared her story. She said 2019, 2020, all through those period, it was actually a waiting period and, growing period. So what I'm also preaching to each and everyone on this call is you have to trust the process. It's a growth process and it keeps becoming bigger and bigger. You keep becoming better and better over and over again. So I don't really want to talk much about that for now. I would just like to go straight to our questions and answer. And if there is anyone that wants to ask a question directly, or if you want to drop your question in the Q&A session, please feel free to do that and she is going to respond to your question. Okay, there's a question from Prince Will from Bayelsa. How can I promote behavioral change in my local population? Totally.
indifferent towards waste disposal. What do you say to this, ma'am?
Come again with that question, please.
His question, he asks that how can I promote behavioral change in my local populace totally indifferent towards people people in his community are totally indifferent towards waste disposal. He's asking how can he promote behavioral change in his local community.
Okay. How can you promote behavioral change? So behavioral change is the most difficult thing to change, particularly with adults, because they are set in their ways. All right. So because they are set in their ways, it is usually very difficult, but that does not mean that it is not doable. So what did I do when I started the behavioral change? Oh, sorry, can you still hear me?
Yes, we can still hear you.
Okay, so what did I do? I had to catch them young. So I started with young children. I started going to schools. Children would teach their parents. Did you know that? Parents learn from their children, just like the way children learn from their parents. So take, for example, I go to a school and I teach sustainable waste management, and I start with, young people, showing them, ways by which they contribute to environmental pollution and how, they can actually reverse that nuisance. And then they there's a light bulb moment, and then they see the way that, wow, so you mean if I drop my PET bottle on the floor, it can accumulate in a gutter or in a drainage. And so when rain falls, it's difficult for rainwater to freely move. And so that's why there is flooding. If you're able to narrate and be able to, help them see, how this can actually affect their livelihood or their health or their environment. Because of course there will be stories about people's homes getting flooded, people unable to go to businesses, people unable to go to school because of flooding. They can relate to it. And when they relate to it, now show them a solution. Do not ever give people a problem and not have a solution. There must be a solution. So when you're giving a solution, when you're giving a problem, always make sure you back it up with a solution. And that solution is the light bulb moment for any individual. I like to catch them young. I like to catch them young, use young people, it could be children, teenagers, or youths themselves. They go back home and begin to experiment, and they begin to see. In that way, they're able to convert the people around them. Sociology says there's always 4 to 5 people, in everybody's life. So you are able to change 5 people's life, just you alone. But you have to start with you. The change begins with you. For example, as a CEO and founder of FAME International Foundation, my people, the way they exponentially learn, I'm amazed. And one day I asked the question, have you started recycling before coming to FAME? Said, no, but I see you do that. I see you do that. So what they see you do is what they learn. So you can't see a staff of FAME or a volunteer of FAME go, I don't want to say that word. You can't see them litter. Let me just put it in a simple way. You can't see them litter. They are always striving to do something good for Earth. My daughter, I went to pick up my daughter many years ago from school. And, while I usually don't come down to get her boxes, my driver does. But that day, I just decided to, engage her and talk at the back of the car. And then I saw her and her friends bring empty PET bottles into the trunk of the car. And I'm like, why? Why are you bringing PET bottles? I said, Mommy, but I want to recycle them. And I'm like, oh, for a split second, I'm like, okay, that's true. But that's it. Your children are learning. Your staffs are learning. Your staff that would tear pure water, drink it and throw it away will no longer do that again. There is a behavioral change already. So it's not until you see 100% behavioral change, the little changes you see have started forming. And that's how, but it has to start with you. Change begins with you, like they say.
Change begins with you. Thank you very much for that response, and thank you for the insights you've shared, Ma. And I would just like to nudge each and every one to fill the tracking and evaluation form that's been shared. And I would also like to call on Christina to unmute his or mic to ask a question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good evening, all. Now, I live in the northern part of Nigeria. From our previous class, we saw our air quality index to be very, very bad. Now, here in the north, we know we kind of face a problem of poverty, or maybe somewhere at the extreme. Now, when we're going out to have a campaign, or maybe we want to talk to them about having an attitudinal change, how do you tell them to move from maybe the use of firewood? What is the possible solution we are giving Mama Musa, who doesn't even have enough to feed? Or what is the possible solutions we are giving them an option to say, okay, this landfills, you should do it this way or that way, when there is no working good waste management system here, as in no working system at all. Man cannot live with waste in their home. So what is the best option to actually address the air quality index, the landfills, the sachet water, everything? That is my question.
Wow. So I know the challenges that the northern part of Nigeria face, and it's been very I know, but so how to deal with that? You can't do it on your own. This is where policy comes into place. So I remember many years ago in 2016, I decided to intentionally, I mention intentionally because since 2006 that I've been working in the environment space, I was not that intentional. I just go to schools, talk, and then the schools change or the people there change. But without a policy reform, it is very hard to see the change you would like to see. So what I started doing in 2016, that was after 10 years, I started engaging the government. So I don't know how old you are, but do not ever think that you're too small or your voice is too low to talk to the government. You need to start engaging your government. Now you can start with an online campaign because they get to see it. Today, unlike in 2006, who knows what is online that time? We have to write letter and write. And thank God there is AI now. That time you will use your brain and write, and you have to construct your letter as well. So you have to engage for policy reform. And you can do this with a group of people, not just you alone, and start engaging online as well. But the first thing you can do is to start sensitizing Mama Musa and her cohort, about the burning. Yes, they have to burn wood to eat because that's their only survival. But then you can introduce them to other means and make sure that you are following it up with the policy that I mentioned earlier, and also getting private sector involved to make sure that, yes, you can't get the whole northern states, in one day. But then that aspect, that community where Iya Musa is or Mama Musa is, you can change that. For example, in Lagos State, we introduced what's it called? The name just skipped me now. Briquettes to a particular community. That community loves the briquette because the briquette is made from food waste, the food that they generate, particularly banana, plantain waste. When you remove your plantain or banana from the tree, that particular tree goes to waste. So what you need to start doing now is to develop yourself too. What skill do you have? What skill can you offer, Iya Musa? What skill can you offer her that it would engage her, excite her, and not just her alone, her children and her entire household, to the extent that she will now tell Iya Mohammed about it. So the first thing that I did at the initial start of my life in the environmental sector was to develop myself. I have a lot of skills that I can, empower people with now, but then I didn't have because I was learning. So begin to learn if you don't have. And if you have, begin to teach. Freely God gave to you. Freely you must give others too, for you to be able to see that change you want to see in your community. Because if you do not give now, you're going to find out that you're the only one with the skill. And then you are going to be the part of the people that will keep complaining about, what you're saying.
Yeah.
So we need to keep skilling ourselves up, empowering other people with the skill that we have. Don't think about money now, because I know you always need the money, but like I said, focus on policy and also focus on private sector that can support you.
Thank you very much, Madam Temitope, for that insightful response and motivating one indeed. I can see 4 hands up, but I'm not sure we can take these 4 hands. Without leaving anyone behind, can you quickly drop your question in the Q&A session? Because, or if you know you are going to take say your question in 30 seconds and we take all the questions at once, I think we can do it that way. So I will start with Kingsley. Kingsley, please unmute your mic and ask your question in 30 seconds. While Isha should also prepare to ask Isha a question. Kingsley, you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Yeah, good evening, ma. Good evening, everyone. Hello,
Good evening.
Good evening, ma. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear
good
you.
evening.
Okay, my question is, you mentioned the plastic as the major cause of heat. Now we're experiencing so much heat. So due to climate change, can you just tell us more about the plastic as the cause of heat in the environment now? Thank you, ma.
Okay, thank you, Kingsley. Let's have Isa, then we have the last person, then she'll be able to respond to all of those questions at once. Isa, you can unmute your mic and ask your question. If you are there, Isa.
Hello, sir.
Okay.
Are you hearing me?
We can hear you, Isa.
Okay, my name is Isa Ibn Mahmoud. I'm from Niger State. I want Madam should create a WhatsApp group to send them.
All right, Isa, the instruction is you ask a question that is in line to what he has taught you. Please kindly follow the instruction given to you. Yeah, can you please unmute your mic and ask your question?
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Yaya. I'm from Niger State. My question is regarding the recycling process. My question is that how can aluminum and brass be recycled in a way that the government will be able to fund the initiative and also NGOs, because that's a very huge project that I know if Madan can talk about, it is something that is very vital in our society. But I think from the initial discussion, nobody talked about the recycling of waste products like the aluminum and also the brass. Thank you.
Okay, can I go ahead?
Yes, you can go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, let me start from the first question that talks about how plastic contributes to heat. So it's not just plastic waste alone that contributes to heat. Food waste also contributes to heat. Food waste that is dumped at the landfill, is exposed to sunlight, exposed to temperatures, and also gives us greenhouse gas, particularly methane gas, which is triple, CO2 gas that is being, emitted into the air. Now, one thing you should know is that the production of plastic also involves the extraction and processing of fossil fuels, such as crude oil, natural gas that releases the same greenhouse gas like carbon dioxide and methane as well. So these greenhouse gas are major contributors to global warming and the greenhouse effects, which trap heat in the atmosphere and also lead to increase in average temperature. Then another thing is the improper disposal of this plastic waste through incineration. When you burn it, where plastics are burned to reduce, their volume, and for heat and for food, to make food, and for, to cook food and all of those stuff. So when you burn plastic, it will also release heat and emit greenhouse gas. And apart from that, plus very toxic pollutants into the atmosphere, contributing to air pollution and climate change. And then another thing is that those black PET bottles, which we are talking about, we've been talking about black, green PET bottles that are not recyclables. Those ones attract heat as well. We're saying no to the companies that are producing black PET bottles and green PET bottles. The black one is for energy drink, while the green PET bottle, I think, which brand uses that now? Because I know Coca-Cola has changed their Sprite green bottle into white. And it's because they want to make it recyclable. But if it is colored, it is not going to be easily recycled. And those kind of plastics actually attract heat as well. So if I'm able to, maybe one more thing, maybe, for example, when plastic pollution in water bodies such as our rivers, lakes, and ocean, when there are plastics in those water bodies causing pollution, it can contribute to heat absorption. Microplastics, those small plastic particles, they result into breaking down. They break down. They are from the breaking down of larger plastic items, and they absorb solar radiation and heat up our water. Ordinarily, water also, takes in heat, and so with the plastics inside of them, of course, it will double, potentially leading to thermal pollution and also disrupting our aquatic ecosystem, like our sea turtles, our flora, the coral, and all of those things. So basically, that is how your plastics can heat up your environment. And then the second question that talks about aluminium. Yeah, well, aluminium has always been recycled in Nigeria from ab initio, right? So maybe that's why many people are not really talking about it. Today, aluminium is money. People recycle aluminium. And in fact, I think aluminium gives the highest amount of recycling reward, when it comes to recycling in Nigeria. So, and, your aluminium, such as your beverage aluminium, for example, from Coca-Cola, Fanta, Schweppes, and all of those aluminium, Malta, Guinness, all those beverages served in aluminium can actually be collected, recovered from the environment, and recycled. People make money from all of this, and they use the aluminium material, melt it through a recycling process, and turn it into another aluminium product. So aluminium is actually a very good. So when we talk about circular economy, you can buy an aluminium product, recycle it, and buy it again, and recycle, and keep buying and recycle without depleting the resource. Thank you so much. And I feel that I don't know if this is going to be on Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever. If you have more questions, I can always follow up on Recycle Hub to answer those questions if that's what you want, Recycle Hub. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for this great insight you've shared this evening. And I want each and every one of us to go to the comment section and appreciate our facilitator this evening. Thank you so much, Madam Temito, for out of your very, very busy schedule in a weekend, and you're still able to create time to be here this evening. We so much appreciate you. We appreciate the in-depth of knowledge you've shared with us this evening, and leading us to know more about various forms of waste and how we can also get to mitigate against waste, and what are the sustainable waste management practices which we can practice across board. Thank you, and we are so grateful, and we look forward to having you in our further engagements. And yeah, definitely, I'm very sure that you are always there for us. And to each and every participant. Okay, you wanted to say something, Ma?
Yes, I want to say thank you to, if I may take my leave now.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. You can.
And I feel that you can encourage the participants to also share what they have learned, from this session. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So there is a task which we are going to do, because this is the final part of this session. And today is the International Day for Zero Waste. Each and every one of us are going to write a content on our LinkedIn page. And there is an hashtag which you are going to be using to that. And please know that you are going to submit the link to that as well. So it's very, very important. Each and everyone have to do that. So in line to what you've learned in line achieving sustainable waste management practices and also talking about circular economy practices. You have to create a content to also sensitize your network on activities around circular economy. And I also want to say this because this is a foundation part of this program. When you talk about recycling, it's even some countries now are advocating that recycling should not even be thought about at all because there shouldn't be any waste. So the system is how are we managing every materials, every resources, whereby we are not generating any waste. So, and I know Nigeria, we are getting there. It keeps getting better and better and over and again. And it's not just focused on plastics alone. There are lots of materials out there which are not even, I keep saying this, a time is coming that you get to the street in Nigeria, hardly are you going to see any plastic because everyone are looking for plastics now. Everyone wants to gather plastic and, it's just out there. And e-waste, a lot of electronic waste out there in the beauty industry, food and agriculture, just like our facilitator said, and across different areas. You just have to think and look at, and I always say it's areas where that we have much problems, that's where you can have the most impactful solution that can take it globally. So go and note it down. Someone said something from Borno State. I want to say that you can be the next change maker who is going to be globally reckoned on in that state if you are ready to make the change today. And in every possible way, we are going to support you and definitely want to let you know that you are not going to be working alone in line to achieving that. So we can get to talk better after this call. So, and before we go, we just love each and everyone. We must take a group photograph today. It's very, very important. And yeah, very, very important. So just in a minute or some seconds, you can get to on your video. And I know some of us might not be prepared for that because there are some people on the road now. They are still joining this call. But just on your video, and while we take a group photograph, each and everyone, we'd like you to on your video. And briefly, we are going to take a group photograph before you go. Okay. And I hope before the end of the program, we also get to see each other physically, not just virtually. So look forward to that. Someone said that she's not photogenic, but your portrait pictures are looking great. And yeah, it's so good to have each and every one of you on this program. Otherwise, your video is still off, and Ololade, your video is still off. It's very, very important, each and every one of you on your videos. Sharif, you can on your video, and yeah, let's see your beautiful faces. Okay, just in a second. And after which I will quickly share some information regarding the next phase of the program. And because I know many of us are going to be asking some questions in regards to that, because this next phase is very, 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 very important for us to have the necessary information. And there won't be any virtual session with the management by that time. So you might just be alone. And definitely we'll still be communicating with you. And hopefully we are going to have a WhatsApp for phase 2 of the program. So, and I want to say that I really want to give kudos to each and everyone that has been active from the onboarding session till today. Yeah, you guys are the real MVPs. And to each and everyone some people that have missed some sessions, please try as much as possible to go back on YouTube and ensure that you watch those videos. You cannot switch off your video now. That's fine. It's good to see your faces. Like I said, very soon we're also going to see each other physically. Very, very important. You need to ensure you watch those videos again. And, I so much love one of the sessions we had with, that was Dr. Olua. I was not on the session, but I saw his presentation slide and I know he did great justice to that. That was with Dr. Oluwafemi. He was able to define different technologies in line to recycling and circular economy. Ensure you study those video and ensure the presentation slides are going to be shared with you, including the one from Madam Temitope. Each of those presentation slides are going to be shared with you. And please go back to the timeline to check out the deliverables. What are the next activities for the next phases? To start with is the Eco 30 Sustainable Living Challenge. I believe we've all received email regarding that. That's going to start from 1st of April to 30th of April. Each and everyone is expected to actively participate in the Eco 30 Sustainable Living Challenge. And it's another interesting thing to be part of. And yeah, there are also amazing gifts to be won. So, and gets to contribute towards achieving a cleaner and healthier environment and also reducing our carbon footprint. So it's another learning phase for us. So ensure you register. It's only those who register that are going to be onboarded to the community for Eco 30. So ensure you register before tomorrow evening. If you've not done that, the link is in your email. Ensure you do that. And secondly, we are going to be having our assessments, and we're going to give a break of 24 hours regarding that. So Monday is a public holiday, and that's the new month. Definitely the time is going to be communicated. We are going to be having our assessment on Monday. So it's going to be 8 p.m. on Monday. So each and everyone can definitely participate in that assessment. And on Tuesday, you are going to be notified as regards your progress in the program. So ensure you participate in the assessments. I know that there are many good people that have been very active all through the masterclass series, and you never missed anyone. But beyond that, ensure you also participate in that assessment, because that carries so much mark as part of your grades to move into the next phase. And after the assessments, we are also going to receive approval as regards proposal for our circular economy sensitization. And most importantly, please ensure that you complete that form before tomorrow evening. Ensure that you complete that form before tomorrow evening. So, and okay, sorry, I missed that, but we are going to communicate with you. I believe each and everyone has been shared that form, and we are going to communicate the update with you once they've reviewed your submission. And the only reason why they might disapprove your proposal is if at all you are working on a capital intensive project and you don't have a plan, you don't have a definition to carry out your project, or your sensitization activity. So, and after which you are also going to be grouped in your respective thematic focal area, and each and everyone are going to work collaboratively. So, and very, very important, there are some key aspects which we are also going to communicate with you towards the end of April. But for now, we are not raising any communication regarding that, most especially the community-based impact projects. And also know that in the month of June, you're also going to be submitting your proposal for circular innovation. So you have to start thinking about what exactly do I want to do, or what exactly do I want to scale up in this program. That's what you are going to submit as a proposal, and that's what qualifies you to enter to participate in the Innovation Bootcamp. And the Innovation Bootcamp is in July. So for now, we are going to be ending the session, where I will just take two comments. Well, I will take two comments from the participants. I can see Favor's hand and I can see Grace hands. But because of our Muslim brethren, we just have to share this back, because the information I was given was 8 p.m. And the communication officer are going to get us informed as regards that via email. But the assessment is basically an evaluation of what you've learned, and it's still within the context of the 5 series which we've had in this program. So it's not outside where you land. So possibly they might shift it to daytime, but what they're actually considering initially is to ensure that each and everyone are also participating in that, but our Muslim brethren will still be on their fast. So, and hopefully it's going to be daytime in the afternoon or evening, but please just keep a tab on your email before tomorrow evening. You are going to be notified regarding that. So let me quickly take the question from Favor. Favor, you can unmute your mic. While Grace, you also get to ask your question. Please, just in 30 seconds, ask your question, and let's prepare to end this call immediately. All right, Favor, can you unmute your mic and ask your question? Hello, Favor. Favor, I can't hear you if you can hear me. Okay. Grace, Favor, can you drop your question in the comment section? Can you drop your question in the comment section, please? Grace, unmute your mic and ask your question. Hello, Grace, you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now.
It's unmuted. Okay, is it not actually a question? I heard you, because my network is bad. I heard you talking about posting on LinkedIn, so I want to know about that. I didn't get that.
So
Thank
the
you.
task given, there's a task given to each and everyone to get to engage on their LinkedIn
Can you hear me
profile.
now?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you clearly. So as the task which is being given to each and everyone, and in line to the sessions you've had all through the 5 series of this program, you are to share your learning experience. And it might be an excerpt from one of the workshop series. It might be a story which you just want to tell in line to circular economy, but it must be something that is passing message across and also getting to enlighten and educate those who don't know about sustainable waste management practices and circular economy. And this is also in commemoration of the International Day of Zero Waste, and which is being observed today, 30th of March. So, and like I said, each and everyone are going to submit the link. You are going to submit the link that probably you are going to submit the link with your assessment link. So that will be also communicated via email. This will be communicated to you via email in detail, and you don't really need to bother about that if you can't hear me clearly, but it will be communicated with you in detail, and you have that via email. So I think by now we just have to end this call because we have some Muslim brethren that would like to go and prepare to pray. I can still see Favor's hand up. Favor, I saw your question in the comment section. The deadline is 31st, and you ensure you complete that form before 31st. After 31st, there won't be any access for you to submit, and the form might not be reopened. I wish each and every one of you happy holidays. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.